Right. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Elevated Minds. We have a very special guest today. This is Kute Blackson. He is an inspirational speaker. He is a teacher, educator, a coach, and he's helped transform so many lives all over the world. And so we are so happy to be having him here on today's episode. So Kute, thank you for being on Elevated Minds today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first, Kute, like I was just saying before, I just wanted to say I really do appreciate you following your soul to write this book, because this book also, guys, is called The Magic of Surrender. This is a beautiful book, and I believe that a lot of people really need to read this book because it can really help when it comes to surrender and learning what surrender is, because a lot of people really don't understand how surrender can change your entire life. So Kute, I really wanted to start off with this. So one of the pages talked about surrender plus trust equals magic. And then it said control plus resistance equals suffering. And so starting off with that, can you give us an example of what surrender plus trust creating magic? What is an example of that?
Yeah, I think, at first I think it would be good if I were to define a bit of surrender for people.
Sure.
Just so that we can, everyone can get on the same page.
Sure.
Because I think when we say the word surrender, some people might have their own definitions of surrender, which may not be that inspiring or
right.
that positive, because I think there's so many misconceptions about the word surrender in our culture today. So many myths about surrender. This idea that surrender is weak, surrender is passive, surrender means giving up, surrender means waving the white flag, that if you surrender, you're going to be left behind, that if you surrender, you won't manifest your goals, dreams, and desires, that if you surrender, you're going to be a doormat, you're going to be a victim, you're going to be taken advantage of, you're going to get less in life. Who the hell would want to surrender if you're going to get less in life, right?
Right.
And so my idea is, if you truly understand surrender and you truly surrender, what if you didn't get less, but you got more? What if you actually got more than you could have actually imagined with the limited understanding of your conscious ego's capacity to imagine what's possible? What if it was maybe not what you expected, but what if it was better? What if it was better? What if it was more? What if it was beyond? What if it was more amazing than you could imagine? And so to me, surrender is the most powerful thing that you can do. Surrender is the real key or secret to manifestation. Surrender for me is the password to freedom. And if you look at any of the truly great ones that were magical in our culture or in past history, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Mandela, Martin Luther King, none of whom are weak people. They created magic and miracles and movements in their life. Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, Oprah in her own way, right? Yes. At some point, I think they all got to the point where they had to surrender themselves. They all got to the point where they had to surrender themselves to the divine, to the universe, to life, to their soul, to the purpose that was calling them, that was bigger than themselves. And so in that surrender, I think all of these individuals, they transcended their human limitations. And in that transcending their human limitations, they tapped into another dimension of life, another dimension of potential, another dimension of power. And that's when life began to flow through them. God began to use them. The universe began to express through them in ways that perhaps they themselves could not have even imagined or planned. Because I don't think you can make up a Mandela's life. You couldn't make up a Mother Teresa, but what happened through them was magical. What happened through them was to me, magic, just so we're also clear, magic is not a hocus pocus, David Copperfield. Magic is simply that which is beyond our logical, mental, ego's capacity to understand. And it's beyond our current ego's capacity to understand what's possible. It's
Right.
better than, it's beyond that. And so I think many of the best things that happened in our life, most of us, we didn't plan.
Right.
We couldn't have imagined. And so I say, when you truly surrender, you will often be met with experiences, situations, and circumstances where you will say, I could not have imagined that. I could never have planned that moment, that experience, that gathering, that relationship. It was like, I had no idea. I couldn't have planned that. And so that's the possibility. And so I think I'm saying, if you want more magic in your life, then who doesn't want more magic? The key is you must surrender. We all want more magic, but we don't want to surrender. We want to be who we were. We want to control everything and everyone from the past. We want to hold on to what was, and we want magic. It doesn't work that way, And so,
Exactly.
for me, surrender is a letting go of control, or I should say, letting go of the illusion that we are in control. Surrender is when you stop trying to force and manipulate life to fit your limited idea of how you think it should be and how you think life should be and who you think things should be and people should be, so that you can be open,
Yes.
and available, and you take the limitations off of life so you can be open and available to allowing life to reveal itself to you, life to guide you, life to lead you in its infinite intelligence. And the old ego-based model of living life was all about, what do you want, know what you want, and go for it, like make it happen. And you might make things happen that way. And I'm not saying you cannot manifest. You can manifest from the lens of the mind and the ego, but it will always be limited in some way.
Right.
Because the mind is conditioned. The mind is limited. The mind is limited to the experience of the past. So whatever you create with the logic and the mind and the ego will be limited to what you know.
Right.
And so when we surrender, we tap into the dimension of soul. And when you tap into the dimension of your soul is the unconditioned dimension of your own being. So when you're creating in harmony and sync with your soul, as you surrender, it's a different question. The question that we ask is not, what do I, as a limited sense of I, want? The question becomes, what is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that life is seeking to manifest through me? What is it that God, the universe, the divine intelligence is seeking to express through me? What is the deepest intelligence that is seeking to create through me and to catch that vision, to feel that vision, to attune to that, to feel that? And
Yes.
Then you can align your mind and your creativity and your personality and your ego and your planning and your strategy in sync and in alignment with your soul's highest intention.
Yes.
And that's when I think the magic happens, because you're creating in alignment with your soul, and you're no longer limited to the past and the ego and the mind.
So that was a perfect explanation of magic. So when it comes to suffering, what does that look like in life when you want to control things so much and you have, you create resistance because you're trying to hold on to how you want the outcome to be. You want, this is how you picture life to go. What does that look like when it comes to suffering?
What it looks like is pain. What it looks like is suffering. What it looks like is hell. What it looks like is constant anxiety. What it looks like is frustration. It's never pleasant. There's no peace when you're holding on, trying to control. And there's so many things that are not in our control that when we try to control them, we will suffer. But it's the ego, which is our perceived sense of what we believe ourselves to be. It's the ego that seeks to control. The ego seeks to control because the job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt again, like you were hurt when you were a kid. And so the ego thinks, if I can control my experience, if I can control you, and I can control the government, and I can control my pet cat, my chihuahua, if I can control my children, if I can control how you perceive me, how I look, my vibe, if I can control my brand, my image, if I can control all these things, then maybe I won't get hurt again. And so the ego seeks to control and control and control and control, but often in our effort to control, we end up controlled. In our effort to control, we end up feeling so anxious, because the truth is, how much of our life are we really in control? Do we control the weather? Do we control how people drive? Do we control how our kids react and respond? Not really.
We don't.
Do we control what the president of the United States or Canada or the UK or wherever we live? Do we control how they act and what they say? Do we control whether the sun shines or not? And how often does everything in our life line up perfectly in the exact way we want it to? And if we're relying on external factors to line up in an exact way for us to be happy, you can see how this is a perfect recipe for suffering. Because it really does. It's just life. Life is dynamic. Life is change. Life is creative. Life is in constant motion. Life is impermanent. And so the more we try to control and seek for things to be a certain way, the more likely we are to suffer, because often it doesn't conform to that way that we seek to have it be.
Right.
And so to me, that is suffering. Suffering is often arises in any moment. And you can check this in your life. If you are experiencing a moment of suffering, like pain, anxiety, frustration, like I'm suffering, psychological suffering in some way, right?
Right.
You will find that there is usually some level of belief that is going on inside of you. And that belief will sound like, the experience that I'm having is not the experience that I should be having. The experience, like, check it, like I'm in traffic. It shouldn't be this way. What the hell is wrong? It's so damn hot. Shouldn't be hot, right? So-and-so's not calling me back, and I'm so mad. They should call me back. So you will always find in any moment where you are feeling some psychological suffering, this pattern, this belief is going on. But we're often not aware. The experience I'm having is not the experience I should be having. I should be having some other experience than the experience I'm having right now.
Right.
Instant pain. Shouldn't be this way. Shouldn't be that way. But it is. Shouldn't be this way. But it is. What is. And you fighting what is, and you fighting reality is like beating your head on a brick wall, saying it shouldn't be there, but it is. It's like if you have a pet dog and dogs go woof woof, and you look at your dog and you try to convince your dog with all of your might, your charm, your creativity, like, please, doggy, just go meow. Like, if you have a dog and you like try to convince your dog, right? Go meow, please, just, if you love me, just go meow, please. Then you pray to God, God, please, would you make this dog just go meow, please? God, it's like, God's gonna look at you like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? It's like, the dog will not go meow. Why? Because it's a dog. And so the more we expect things to be something that they're not, the more we will suffer. And the truth is, it's nothing else and no one else that creates our suffering. We create our suffering with our resistance. It's not the weather. It's not the astrology. It's not the government. We're creating our own suffering through our own resistance. So if we can just come into acceptance, this is what it is. That doesn't mean you sit there and lie down and let someone abuse you. That doesn't mean you sit there and you don't do anything. Well, it is what it is. I'm 400 pounds overweight, so I'm just going to just stay fat and not No, you have to accept what is. I have an alcohol problem. I'm overweight, 400 pounds. This is what is. I accept it. Now you have a choice in terms of what you want to do about it. And so suffering is always arises because we're often resisting reality, resisting what is. So we first have to accept what is, then we can decide what do we want to do with what is. It's raining outside. I don't like that it's raining outside. Well, I have some choices now. I can resist that it's raining outside, go outside, stand outside, and insist that it rains because I want to go to the beach. I'm going to be miserable. Or as I can say, it's raining outside, so maybe we can watch movies inside, have a family night. Maybe we can invite some friends indoors and have a friends night. Maybe we can go to the movies and, enjoy a movie night outdoors in the movie theater. So then you can kind of work with reality, to dance with reality, to make the best of reality, and maybe even have a better experience than you can imagine.
I love that explanation of suffering. And so I wanted to go into something that I think is a really big part of the book. You talked a lot about how you were your pastor's kid and how your father led the church, and how you were, next in line to, take over the church and all that. And I relate to a lot of that because my dad also is a pastor. And
Wow.
Yeah. And kind of the same scenario. My dad was really great healer. Like, I'm seeing miracles and all this kind of stuff. And I was supposed to be next in line to, take over the church and all stuff. I'm in the choir. I'm, giving sermons. Yeah. Like the whole nine. And it got to the point, I think I was around age 26. And I was like, I like what I'm doing. I feel like I'm building the kingdom, so to speak, but I felt like there was another way that I wanted to go about it. I wanted to teach and help people in a different type of way. And your story just really spoke to me about how, you tried to figure things out, and you went off to, America, and you tried to learn and figure out, your way. And getting up to that point, how did you feel inside when you were, giving the sermons and, leading and all this stuff? How did you get to the point to where you were when you said, I want more, there's something else that I want in order to reach the people? I just don't know what it is. What was that point for you?
It wasn't one point. I think it was a series of points, because I started speaking in my father's churches when I was age 8. And I began giving sermons in his churches when I was age 8. When I was 14, I was ordained as a minister. And my entire life was basically set out for me. I was ordained, went through a whole ceremony. I mean, it was on. Everybody was excited. But I knew that something wasn't quite right. And at least for me, right? Something wasn't quite right for me. Like my soul, something wasn't quite sitting right with my soul. And I tried to fit myself into the box of being who I thought the world wanted me to be, but it just wasn't right. That's all I can say. Just something didn't feel right. And nothing against my father, nothing against the church, nothing other than I felt like I had a different path.
Right.
And I felt like something was calling me, and it was an undeniable calling in my soul. It was bigger than me. It was just go to America. It was pulling me. Pulling me. And I think what your soul guides you to do will not always be convenient. And what your soul guides you to do may not always make sense to your your mind. And what your soul guides you to do, nobody else around you may understand. But this is why it's your calling, and it's nobody else's, and why you were given the vision, why I was given the vision, why everyone listening, why you were given, like 700 people weren't given that vision, you were given the vision. And so other people aren't going to see your vision necessarily. Right. Other people aren't meant to see your vision. So I say, stop looking for validation to other people to validate the vision that you've been given by God, by the divine, by this infinite intelligence. And so, it took me honestly 4 years, from 14 to 18, to really, because I knew, but I just didn't have the courage to own. And it took me 4 years to really muster the courage, to say, okay, I'm going to follow this, because, I'm 17 and a half. I'm choosing not to go to university, have no money, have no support from my father. My prospects is not looking good. Right. And I looked into my future, and I saw that I could follow the expected path for myself and my life. But if I don't have my integrity and I don't have my truth, well, what kind of success is it? Even if I were to succeed and take over my father, that's just living dead. Right. And it felt so painful. If I was honest, it felt painful. But if I was honest, I felt something pulling me. And so I said yes. And it took me 4 years of grieving. Wow. I grieved for 4 years, the loss of my old life. Wow. The death of my relationship with my father. And I let him go. It took me 4 years to let him go. And I finally had the conversation with him. And when I was 18, we didn't speak for 2 years. And that was difficult. And a long time. It was hard, man. And it was heartbreaking, and it was difficult. But it just felt like, if I don't follow my soul, I'm going to die inside. I'm basically living dead anyway. And so I just made the choice. When I spoke to my father, I was terrified. Even afterwards, I wondered, did I make the wrong decision? But something was bigger than that. It was my soul guiding me. And long story short, I ended up winning a green card in the green card lottery. And that's what enabled me to come to the US with 2 suitcases, $800 in my pocket, knew no one in the country, just listening to the voice of my soul and the voice of God. And I was guided here, Look, the way I say is, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a reason. If you've been looking for a sign, this moment, this conversation that we're having right now is the sign that your soul has been looking for. That if you listen to this conversation right now, your soul has attracted and manifested and has created this conversation into existence right now. It's no accident that you are here with us right now, having this moment, co-creating this conversation with your soul. And I believe that if you have a dream and a vision, that dream and that vision has chosen you. You might think that you chose this dream, but it actually chose you. The dream chose you because you are the perfect person to fulfill the dream and the vision. You're the perfect person in everything you've been through. Your childhood, your pain, your trauma, your breakups, your divorce, the abandonment, everything you went through in your childhood is part of the perfect preparation to fulfill the dream and vision that life has given you, that God has given you.
Yes.
And in fact, God has been preparing you. Everything about your life is part of the ingredients that the cosmic chef has been using to prepare your life, to prepare you to be served to the world. And so the dream has chosen you. And if that dream has chosen you, then the dream doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. It belongs to life. It belongs to the universe. It belongs to God. And if that is truly the case, if it belongs to God, it belongs to life. And I think life knows what to do. God knows what to do. It knows how to manifest that dream and that vision through you, in you, and as you, if you just surrender and say yes and get out of the way. That's when the magic happens, man. That's when the miracles happen. That's when, talk about, well, can you give me some? I want a damn green card. I'm like, how did that happen? I could never have planned that. I won a green card. Now we could say, oh, you were just lucky. I've had experience after experience after experience of I wrote the book not out of theory. I wrote the book from my lived experience of let me see what happens when I surrender. Let me see what happens when I surrender. Let me see what happens when I surrender. And life never ceases to fail me. Maybe not on my timeline. Right. Maybe not on my timeline. Maybe not in the way I wanted, but in the long run, I'm like, oh, I see. I always say, thank God for your prayers that weren't answered. Because sometimes we think that when our goals and dreams aren't manifested and our prayers that we wanted and goals are not hit, we think something's wrong. We think that we failed. We think that God has abandoned us. The universe has forgotten us. But the truth is, sometimes your prayers not being answered are grace. It's the love. It's the love of the divine. Yes. Because if we think back, if everybody thinks back right now to maybe that relationship you had in the past where you fell madly in love and you were like, I met the one, this is the one, I found the one, this is the one, and you couldn't believe that you broke up and you were devastated, mad at God, mad at the world, but you got over it. And then maybe years later, you look back now, today, 2023, you look back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you think to yourself, thank God that relationship didn't work out. Thank God that relationship did not work out, because you see that person now and you think, they're crazy. And so when things don't work out, right? When sometimes things don't work out, we feel cursed. We complain, we contract, we lose faith. But I say that when things don't work out, step back, breathe, and get curious. The universe is working out something better on your behalf beyond what you can imagine. Yes. But curiosity is the key, because when things don't work out, we're not curious. We just assign a meaning. This is good. This is bad. I'm cursed. God doesn't love me. What's wrong? I failed. We assign a meaning, and now we contract. If you're willing to step back, there's usually 3 or 4 reasons why things are not manifesting in your life. Number 1, the dream and vision that you have is actually not the highest intention for your soul. The dream and vision that you have is just what you think you want from your ego, but it's not the most authentic vision and dream that your soul is seeking to manifest. It's just what you think you should be doing.
Yes.
What you think you should, the life that you think you should be living based on your parents, based on social media, based on society, based on trying to look good. But it's not like, this is why I'm here. And so sometimes things don't manifest because you are not in alignment. What we do is we try to force and force and force and force. Then we end up going in the wrong direction or staying in the wrong relationship more, even further.
Yes.
So instead, step back, pray, meditate, be still, listen, attune, and ask for guidance. Catch the vision for what is true, what is authentic, what is the real authentic vision that life is seeking to express, what is the true goal that I'm meant to go after right now. And when you kind of attune and catch that vision, then you can move back into life. So the universe is seeking to realign you. Number two, it just may not be time yet. Sometimes your timing ain't God's time. Your timing is not the universe's time. Sometimes you might want it to be summer, but it's winter right now. And and you trying to go swimming in the snow, unless you're Wim Hof, unless you try to go swimming in the snow, it's gonna be freezing. You're gonna be cold. You're gonna catch pneumonia. And that's what we do. We try to make something that isn't into something. You making something that is not into something doesn't make it so. Because what is truly yours by right of consciousness, what is truly your highest destiny will be yours, cannot not be yours.
Yes.
So you have to trust the divine timing and the seasons and rhythms of life and the cycles of life. Like, okay, like you can go to a tree and pick an avocado or a mango that is green and not ripe. You can. Have you ever eaten a hard mango?
I haven't.
Have you ever eaten a hard avocado?
I have.
Well, it's horrible, man. You might as well eat cardboard, but you can. But that's what many of us are doing in life. We're in unripe relationships. We're in unripe jobs. We're in unripe situation because we're trying to force the process.
Yes.
And the truth is, divine timing is the best timing.
Divine timing.
The third reason why sometimes things don't manifest is, I believe that we are souls. We are souls that we incarnate into this human experience in order to learn, to grow, to evolve. To me, life, I write about this in my book, but life is like a university for our soul's evolution.
Yes.
Life is a school for our soul's evolution, and every experience, your parents, your relationships, everything we go through is an opportunity for us to grow through, to evolve, and everything is our curriculum.
Yes.
So everything is a teaching. We're always in school. If we start seeing life from the soul lens, that everything is a university and everything is a school, then it changes your relationship to life. So when things don't manifest according to plan, rather than seeing it as something bad, you can see it as a learning growth opportunity and ask yourself, what is my soul seeking to learn? What is it that I've not learned yet? What is it I still need to learn?
Right.
Why did I attract this situation experience? Because sometimes things don't manifest because you have not learned the lesson that you need to learn where you are with who you're with. And then if you don't learn the lesson, you don't get to graduate to the next level, right? You don't get to graduate to the next level of relationship. You don't get to graduate to the next level of manifestation, the next level of abundance, the next level of whatever it is you want to experience. You just keep all lessons repeated until learned. You go cycling. It's not God that's doing it to you. It's not the devil that's doing it to you. It's not your mom, your dad. It's not Santa Claus. It's you. You have not learned the lesson for why you are going through this experience. So when you step back and you learn the lesson, you heal, you forgive, you release, you transform, you clarify, you connect, you align. That's the key that unlocks the lock to the next level of your life.
Yes, I love that. And I want to go back to something you had just said, when you have to backtrack and really just reflect and just see, you know, why are you trying to control and make things go certain ways? And that story about when you went to America reminds me of how I moved to California. I moved from Florida all the way to California. Knew two people, one person in San Diego, one person in LA. And the person in LA wasn't really a friend. So I didn't really know anyone here. but I knew that I needed to be here. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I've always had a drawing to be in California, and I didn't know what to expect. You know, when I left my dad's church and I left, and I expected like, oh, okay, I'm moving to California. I'm going to get this awesome job in healthcare. Because at the time I was doing healthcare. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get a beautiful girlfriend. I'm going to do all these things, and it's going to be like this, and this. And I get here, and it's nothing like what I thought. Not even close. All the jobs that I had applied for fell through, everything. Yeah. And the woman I was with wasn't even the woman I should have been with. And so I got all those things, and I wasn't happy. And I'm like, what's going on? And so it just reminded me of the part when you talked about how you went over to America and you expected all these things, and then you're like, oh, I feel like the American dream was crushed. You know, in that moment, I can only imagine it had to be in the moment, it had to be like devastating for you. Like, you expect all these things, you know, you go against what you always known, and then you're going into this new, you know, uncharted territory. So what was that like when, you know, everything started to fall through while you're in America, and, you know, you're just trying to figure out your way? What was that like for you?
Look, I'll be honest. The beginning of being here was really hard. The beginning of being in America was very difficult. The beginning of being in America was I wanted to run back home. I cried for weeks and months the first time. You know, I stole food from the supermarkets, which I'm not proud of, but, you know, hey, sometimes you just have to survive.
Yeah.
You know, I was, you know, eventually had some friends and slept on friends' couches, you know, and it was hard, but I felt something bigger than me, and I felt like I didn't have a choice. And I felt, if I was honest, to not follow this impulse was more painful than anything else.
Right.
And so it felt like I surrendered, you know, I felt like I have to follow this.
Yes.
I don't know where it was going to lead me, but I have to follow this, because if I don't, I'm basically dead anyway. Emotionally, spiritually, psychically, psychologically. And so it was hard, you know, but I just kept following the clues.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people think they have to have it all figured out.
Right.
But sometimes you just have to follow the clues. You don't have to know where you're going to get to exactly where you need to be. But there's something inside of you that knows, a power inside of you that knows. And so if you can just take one step, and take another step, and take another step, and take another, and you just follow the clues. That's the key. You know, you follow the clues.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. You know, I think that I went through many dark moments, dark nights, and challenging moments. And maybe folks listening in, maybe you're going through a dark moment in life. Maybe you're going through a challenging moment in life where you feel like giving up, where you feel like all is lost, where you can't make your head from your tail. You can't make it. You can't see 2 feet in front of you. There were many moments where I felt like I didn't know how I was going to eat that day.
Right.
Like, how am I going to eat this day? How? I got $2 literally in my bank account. $2. Wow. How? What will I do? Because I can't go back. And what I found is there is a gift in the darkness. When you look in your life and all seems dark, most people give up. There is a gift in the darkness. The darkness is not sent to break you. The darkness is sent, in those dark times, the dark night of the soul is sent to reveal to you the light that is within you. Because when it's dark, when everything is shiny outside, you can just look outside and be distracted. But when everything is dark outside and you can't see anything, there's no distractions. The darkness forces you to look within.
Have to.
It forces you to go within. It forces you. It's like, well, you look outside, you don't see even your reflection. So there's nowhere else to go but inside. And so the darkness forces you to go inside, to connect with something deeper, to connect with your light, to connect with your soul, to connect with your spirit, to connect with God, to connect with the unlimited nature of your being. And that is the gift of those dark moments. You know, they make you stronger. They say what doesn't break you makes you stronger. And the darkness makes you stronger, because then you start realizing, wait a second, there's a power inside of me that is not dependent on the world. There's a power inside of me that's not dependent on anything outside. And the more you connect to that, the more you engage that, the more you develop that, the more you amplify that, the more you surrender to that, the more you'll find the strength that is unbreakable.
Yes.
You know? And that is the light inside, you know?
Yeah.
I quote from the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within. It doesn't say the kingdom of heaven is in a Lamborghini. The kingdom of heaven is in a mansion. The kingdom of heaven is in your bank account.
Right.
The kingdom of heaven is in a beautiful girlfriend. The kingdom of heaven is in Gucci clothes. The kingdom of heaven is within. And seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things out here will be added to you. But most of us, we're seeking outside. We're seeking outside from our friend, from our family, from this person, from that person, looking at from Instagram, from TikTok, from what have you, rather than going direct to the source. And so those dark moments, when I had no friends, when I was betrayed, when I was rejected so many times that I felt so embarrassed, when I had no money to go out, I just stayed inside, went inside, prayed, meditated, connected. And it forces you to do that, forced me to do that. And so use the darkness to connect to your strength so that you can reveal more of your light.
Love that. Yeah, I definitely love that analogy of the darkness of the soul. One thing I want to talk about is the relationship that you had with your mom, and my condolences for that as well. One thing that really touched me about the book was your relationship with your mom. And I thought that it was such an amazing thing that your dad and your mom didn't even speak the same language.
They didn't. They didn't.
And they got married. And I think that was like, I've never heard of something like that before.
Me too. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. What really I want to know is, you know, when she was diagnosed with cancer and you got the news, I know that had to be rough, but I feel like it was also different because some people just like lose their loved one, like, you know, without warning.
Yeah.
So how was that for you, having to surrender to the moment of your mother literally actively passing? But she was so calm about it. She was so at peace with it. How did you deal with that?
Look, when my mother was first diagnosed with stomach cancer, it was quite a shock, you know.
Right.
And I look back and I'm like, I don't think my brain was processing it in the beginning, right? Because you just don't think your parents are going to die, you know. And
right.
And I thought I had time, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began, for the first year when she was going through this, I began to fly from LA to London every month. And I was flying every month, once for 1 week, to be with my mother.
Wow.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
I'd be with her for a week in her chemo sessions, and we would sit and hold hands and just be with her in chemo, you know. What started out as the worst year of my life became the best year of my life, because somehow I spent time with my mom in a way that I'd never done before, because I was so busy trying to change the world that I honestly did not make certain things important, because I thought I had time.
Right.
5 years from now, 10 years, we have time. And I thought to myself, why did I wait till she was dying to just sit here and have these conversations and just do nothing with her? Why? And so for me, I saw that the only regret I had and have in my life is not spending more time with my mom. It's the only regret.
Yeah.
And I wish I had more time, you know? And so it was beautiful because I just got to be with her. You know, for me in the beginning, I wanted to heal my mother.
Right.
And get her well and feed her green powders and supplements. And she wasn't really cooperating, you know, and I was getting mad and upset and frustrated. And I thought to myself one day, cool, the point of you doing this is to be closer to her, and you're wasting the time you have with her by being mad and upset that she's not taking her supplements, you know.
Right.
And, so I surrendered, and I said, okay, well, she has her own journey in this lifetime. And you know what? I'm not going to say I gave up hope, but I totally surrendered her life. And it freed me up to just be present with her now.
Right.
Not 10 years from, just all I have with my mother is this moment right now.
Like right now.
All I have with my mother is this moment right now. And every moment became precious. Every moment became so special.
It's magic.
Every conversation I had with her, there was the sense that this could be the last conversation.
Right.
This could be the final text. This could be the last time I ever see my mother making a cup of tea. Just a mundane experience, but like I would just look at my mother making tea and just took it in. It was so like what I would give to be able to sit and watch my mother wash the dishes again one more time today.
Right.
Give everything.
The simple things.
The simple things, you know, the ordinary things of life. And so about 7 months into the process, the doctor said to her, I was there in the hospital, basically there's nothing else we can do for you. You're going to die. Wow. It was a challenging moment, you know. I had been preparing myself, but still, the reality. And I looked my mother in the eyes and I said, Mom, is there... Basically, I asked her, are you afraid? And she said, no, I'm not afraid because I know this body. This body is a temporary vehicle for my soul. And this body will die, but I will not die. My soul is eternal. Wow. I'm like, wow, this is somebody that knows who she is. I looked my mother in the eyes and I said, is there anything I can do for you in your final days? What do you want? What do you need? Right. And she looks me in the eyes and she says, you know, there's nothing I want and there's nothing I need. The only thing I want is what God wants for my life. That's the moment I understood why she was free. Wow. Because she was surrendered. She was not attached to living. She was not attached to dying. She was surrendered to the highest unfolding of life. And that's when I saw the power of surrender. Not just in a church, in a temple, in a synagogue, in a mosque, in a mountaintop, in the Himalayas, in a yoga mat, but in the face of your immortality. Like, it's real. Wow. So that's when I saw that surrender was the real password to freedom. She was open to the highest unfolding for her soul, and in that was her freedom, you know? Right. I can only imagine, because I mean, she is such at peace. I mean, how can you argue with that, you know? You can't. Yeah. One of the things that you talked about was a particular relationship that you were in for, I want to say you said it was about 4.5 years. Okay. And I remember it just like, this is one of the things that also spoke to me, because I stayed in a relationship for a long period of time with someone that I should not have stayed with, you know, and now that I look back, I'm like, oh, wow, totally dodged a bullet. But you know, at the time, it seems like, oh, this is it. Like, this is the woman that I want to stay with. I want to have kids with her. I want to have this whole life. Yes. And, you know, I remember when you said, I read the book, in that little line that you said, I stayed for 4.5 years. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a long time. That's a long time. How did you feel in that 4.5 years, like knowing that this wasn't the person that really... No, I loved her, man. I loved her. I didn't know. I would not have stayed for 4.5 years if I was sure she wasn't the person. Okay. I loved her and I thought she was the person. Right. It's just that the reality of the situation and the reality of the experience was hell. You know, the reality of the experience was painful. But I was so attached to her from an ego perspective, being the one, being the person, because I had all these, like, she has to be the one, that I wasn't open to another alternative, because the truth is, on a daily basis, the relationship wasn't working. The relationship wasn't working in many ways. She was an amazing person. I'm an amazing person, but we, like our triggers, for some reason, kept activating each other, and so I was so attached to her being it that I could not have imagined it not being, that I wasn't open, and that's where you put the limitations on life. I was not surrendered.
Right.
You know, it has to be her. She has to be the one. She has to be. And so I wasn't like open, like, okay, God, show me. And so after 4 years of my own stubbornness, and, you know, like a dog biting a bone, refusing to let go, it just, things came to a head, and things just were not sustainable anymore.
Right, you know? Right.
And that's when I just had to let go. You know, I write about it in my book, but that's when I had to let go and release and surrender and set it free. And like, I give up, I surrender, I let go.
Right.
And that was that was the beginning of my life, really.
Wow, that's amazing. Since you just talked about ego, what are some things that our viewers can do in order to start letting go of ego and start surrendering more? Is there like any exercises or some practices?
I think first we have to be willing to tell the truth to ourselves. As human beings, we're constantly lying to ourselves, and we're not telling the truth to ourselves. And we lie to ourselves as a form of protection. We lie to ourselves as a form of self-preservation. We stay in relationships that we know are not right. We work jobs that we hate. We say yes when we mean no to get love, validation, and approval from those around us. And we, you know, the ego is that which we perceive ourselves to be, and the ego's job is to protect you from getting hurt again, like you were hurt when you were 5 and 10 and 15, you know. And the ego's job is to reinforce its existence. And so first we have to be willing to start telling the truth. One of the ways that ego keeps itself the same and keeps itself, you know, preserves its identity is living in denial and lying. Sometimes it's not even conscious, because if I question who I am, and I question my beliefs, and I question what I think, and I question what I feel, then I'm gonna have to like let go and open, and that might be scary. But if I hold on to what I believe, even if it's not true, then at least I know who I am, or who I think I am. At least I know what is, or what I think is, and then I'm going to be safe. At least, even if I'm suffering, at least I know the level of suffering that I'm experiencing on a daily basis. It's like, even though it's freezing in freaking Alaska, at least I know how cold it's going to get. But I don't know if I move to Fiji or Tahiti or Bora Bora, like what the weather's going to be like. So at least I know how cold it's going to get, you know. So at least I know how much suffering I'm going to experience.
Right.
You know, that quote, the devil you know, was it the devil you know is better than the angel you don't, or something like that?
Yes.
And so the ego doesn't want to change. And so one of the ways that we keep ourselves stuck is we lie. So I'd invite people to sit with, what lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? You know, and to be willing, the truth will set you free. It might first piss you off, it might first upset you, but the truth will set you free. There's a reason that quote is there. The truth will set you free. And we have to want the truth more than we want what we have. We have to want the truth more than we want what we think we want.
Yes.
And so we're willing to tell ourselves the truth. I'm not in love with this person anymore. It's scary. Great. You don't have to take action, but just tell the truth.
Right.
You don't have to break up, but just tell the truth. I hate my job. Feel it. I have an alcohol problem. Okay, let's acknowledge it. No shame, but just truth. Truth, there is no transformation without truth. So I think if you want to start, you have to begin to start acknowledging the truth, because the ego doesn't want to acknowledge truth. That's one of ego's strategies. The other thing, and so I think, you know, ego is what resists surrender. And it's ego that doesn't want to surrender, because ego is a creation to avoid pain. And it's been created to get love, validation, and approval, where we develop all sorts of roles and masks and personas to get love, validation, and approval from family, friends, parents, you know, those around us. And we become who we think we need to be in order to be loved, and to get love, validation, approval, and then to avoid pain, that before you know it, we become this persona, we become this version of ourselves that we think is who we are, but it's not who we are. It's just what we've been conditioned to be. So you are not your conditioning.
Right.
The ego position that you've become is not, people often say, this is just who I am. No, it's not just who you are. It's just what you've been conditioned to be, and so the degree to which you're conditioned is the degree to which you're not free. The degree to which you're not free is the degree to which you're a slave to your past programming and your parents' programming and generational programming. So we have to be willing to become aware of our conditioning, to become aware of our thoughts, to become aware of our patterns, and to begin questioning them by telling the truth to ourselves.
Yes. There's a line where you talked about most of your girlfriends were jealous. And there was a line that you said with the guy that was talking to you, and he said, why do you like jealous women? And you said, what? No, I don't like jealous women. Yeah. I said, no, why do you like jealous women? But that moment when I read that line, it something in me clicked, and it's like, it's true. We really do have to be true to ourselves. And just that little moment of being truthful can really just expand our whole mind and really just release us from this grip of what we think that it should be. Yeah. After your mother passed, you and your father kind of reconnected, and I thought that was a really beautiful thing. And so how big would you say forgiveness is in mending your past when it comes to people, surrendering and getting to the future, getting to their current life?
Yeah, I think forgiveness is a key. When we're carrying pain, wounds, hurt, shame, stuff from the past, it's hard to truly open and embrace the future and embrace the new. And so I think we have to be willing to forgive, not for anyone else, but willing to forgive so that we can set ourselves free. Willing to forgive so that we can free ourselves. Because when we're carrying stuff from the past, we are the ones that are affected. We are the ones that kill our own joy.
Yeah.
And I think nobody and nothing is worth our peace and happiness. Nothing and no one is worth our inner freedom. And so, yes, forgiveness is not something that we often make forgiveness dependent on the other person. Well, if they apologize, I'll forgive them. If they change, I'll forgive them. If they, for me, what I had to realize is nothing is worth my freedom, not even my father.
Right.
And so we forgive to set ourselves free and to really get closure with somebody. And forgive has nothing to do with them. It's really to do with your own relationship with that person within yourself. And you can forgive yourself, because many times we're holding judgments on ourselves for how we were in that relationship. So you can forgive yourself for how you were. Then you can learn the lesson. Then if needed, make amends. And you can also forgive the other person on some level for showing up a certain way, because when you realize that everyone is doing the best that they can do, when you realize that often people that are hurt can't help but hurt others. Not that it's right, not that it's okay, but they can't help themselves in some way, then it frees you up a bit, at least for me, to forgive them, because they can't help it. If they're in pain and they're in fear and they're going to act certain ways, and if you believe what they believed, you would probably act how they acted. The thing is, you don't believe what they believe, so you act a different way. But if you had their childhood and their upbringing and their experienced the levels of abuse and different experiences, you probably would act that way too.
Right.
But we haven't, and that's not to condone them. And so when we can understand that everyone is doing the best that they can do, then we can begin to set themselves free so that we can take back our power and begin to create new experiences in our future. Because when we hold on to pain from the past childhood relationships, parents, we will tend to recreate experiences in our life that pull in certain situations that resonate at the same vibration of the stuff we have not resolved and forgiven.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for being on, Kute. Thank you for thank you for your wisdom. And if you guys want to check out his book, Magic of Surrender, can you get it from kuteblackson.com?
Yeah, people can get the book from Amazon. So just go to Amazon, check out The Magic of Surrender. It's on paperback. That's one. Check out my podcast, Soul Talk. That's two. Instagram, Kute Blackson. Facebook, Kute Love Now. For those that inspired by the conversation, I would say if you feel as though you've been put on the planet for a purpose that is bigger than yourself, and you feel ready to heal, ready to transform, ready to free yourself from the layers of conditioning that have stopped you from being free and powerful and owning your voice, and you're ready to connect with your truth and share your gifts with the world, twice a year, I do a very, very, very unique special event in Bali. 2023 is my last year doing this event, actually. It's a 12-day seminar training without walls called Boundless Bliss, the Bali Breakthrough Experience in Bali. I've done it for the last 11 years. I've done 21 of these events.
Wow.
And it's beyond words amazing and life-changing. And so if anyone feels, if you feel ready, you're feeling something, you're feeling a calling, follow that calling. You can find out more at www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. The next event is December the 5th through the 16th. 5th through the 16th of December. You can go to the website, you can apply, and this is the last ever Boundless Bliss Bali event that I'm going to be doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kute. Appreciate you for being on. Everyone, stay elevated.